Hello and welcome back to the channel. We're on day 3 on Simulation Week and this is Train Sim World. So we're here with Train Sim World. This is Train Sim World 2020 from Dovetail Games, and at the time of recording this, you can pick this up, or the base version, in the PlayStation Store for $24.99, and there is also a ton of extra content there you can download in the form of some maps, some extra trains, things like that. So let's jump straight into it. So when you first start up the game, you can then load your profile and it will bring you to a route selection, and these are not all the UK. You can go to the USA as well as Europe as well, and with each route as well there are different trains that you can drive. So we're going to jump straight in with the Great Western route. So here you can see you can select a bunch of different things here. You can also choose the locomotive that you want to drive. So we could go for we're going to go for the Class 166, I think. Now you can either choose to free play this, or you can choose scenarios or services. Scenarios will be things like there's a broken down train and you've got to get to them to take on all their passengers. Or you can do services, which, as the name suggests, will be a service running from one place to another, and you've got to get to stations in a certain amount of time. As I say, you can easily get lost in this game for hours without realizing it. As you go into each loading screen, as you'll see here, it will advertise other maps, it will advertise DLC, like it's advertising on here the Oakville subdivision, which has just come out. And one cool thing about Train Simulator is if you've bought the version before, so this is actually running off a disc from the first version, which came out in 2019 or 2018, I can't remember which. Every time there is a new version come out, you will automatically get that upgrade for free. That was the same with Train Simulator on the PC. So it would automatically update every year, and along with every update comes a ton of new features. So we're here now. We have got to get to Ealing Broadway, so we're going to get the train moving here. Now, a good feature about this is when the train is moving, you can obviously mess around with all the buttons and stuff like that, the horns, but you can also get up and walk around the train, which you'll see in a little bit. There's speed limits in place, as there are on the road, and on the controller itself there's quick buttons here to make the whole experience a lot easier. So your right 1 and right 2 buttons will control the speed and the brakes of the train. You can also, I think you hold down the directional keys on the D-pad to bring up quick menus such as opening the doors, turning on headlights, things like that. You can switch between internal and external views as well, and when you look at a button that's actionable, it will come up with a little circle and an X where you can interact with that button with its various different functionality options as well. So we're just pulling out the station here. There is a speed limit in place and we're going to stick under it. Now every time you achieve something, like in Bus Simulator when you use your indicators correctly, this will give you points when you are sticking within speed limits, stopping at signals, things like that. On the screen in the bottom right you've got the speed along with the different units of power there. You go to top right there, you've got the distance to the next speed limit and the distance to the next signal as well. So you can see we've got just over 300 yards to the next green signal, and the same again with the 50-mile-an-hour speed limit. Above that is the points that you've earned on your time on this route, and then if you look on the top left as well, it gives you the next objective. So our next objective will be to stop at Ealing Broadway at the time stated there. Now within the speedo is the current time on the game. So we're currently looking at the time being 8:14. We've got to get to Ealing Broadway by 8:20. So we've got 6 minutes to get there. Hopefully it won't be too much of a stretch. So let's skip forward, to see our arrival at Ealing Broadway. So here we are, we're coming into Ealing Broadway now. There's only a few hundred yards to go, but it looks like I'm going to come in too fast, so I'll be amazed if I don't overrun the platform here. As you can see, as you pull up to the point, it will come up with the stopping distances for each of the carriages. Just about caught that. And then as you pull into the station, it'll obviously give you points, say objective complete. And the cool thing about this, quick menu there to unlock the doors. In fact, while we're on the quick menu, there's one thing I should say as well, and that is that using the left directional analog stick can be a bit glitchy. It's hard to select the option you want from time to time. But as I was saying, one cool thing about it is when you get to a station, you can actually get out, see the passengers getting off as well. When you open and close the doors, when you close the doors especially, it'll give you that beeping sound that you get on the rail trains before the doors are about to shut. So you have about 5 seconds or so of beeping, and then the doors will actually shut. Now you don't have to select the door closing from the quick menu. There are also buttons within the cab that do this, as in real life. So if you wanted to make your experience a little more authentic and not use the quick menu, you can do so quite easily. So I'm using the R2 button now to get ready to go. As you can see in the top left corner there, it'll give you the time that you're supposed to keep the doors open while you load the passengers, and then once that timer has finished, it'll tell you to close the doors. And it'll also tell you what time you need to pull out the station as well. So at the moment it's telling us to wait till 21 minutes past. So we've got another 15 seconds left on that timer. There are other trains on the track, AI Traffic. I can't remember, I don't think there's a multiplayer on this. I know that it had been talked about previously, but there isn't a multiplayer on this at the moment, I'm afraid. So we can now lock the doors. So we're going to do that now using the option to lock left, because that's obviously the side of the platform. As you can see, I'm having trouble selecting that with the analog stick, but eventually I do get it. And there we go, objective complete. You got more points awarded again. That brings our total up to over 1,500. And we're now going to use the right 2 button to accelerate. So as we pull out the station there, the next objective is telling us to stop at Southall at 8:25. So we're going to make our way there and skip forward again to the next station. So here we are, just a few hundred yards away from Southall. Hopefully the station, stopping at the station will be a lot smoother this time, and I won't overrun it. I tend to be going a little too fast sometimes coming into these stations, but it does seem that the speed is a lot better this time round. We obviously don't want to stop short of the marker. We're just going to put a little bit of throttle back on there and just crawl along until we get closer to the marker, and then we can obviously bring the train to a complete stop and open the doors. Once again, I'm going to fight with the analog stick to get the doors open, and then we can start offloading the passengers. So while they're doing that, I'm going to get out the train and have a look. Now the level of detail on this game is actually quite good, but the only disappointment I've got is obviously pedestrians have no concept of you being there, which is slightly awkward. It can make for some awkward encounters. I was face to face with that woman there, and then as well as that, anything outside the stations or the track, and this is not just this game, this is on multiple simulation games, I've seen this as well, is quite disappointing in terms of graphics, but other than that, I'd say the graphics are really, really impressive. Almost everything in the cab is interactive, so you can obviously buzz the guard like I've done here. The door switches are right next to that, so train door closing in a minute. I'm going to do that. As I was saying, if you want to make your experience more immersive, you can do that with these buttons. So you've got the open button and the close button, and then we're going to pull off again. So the next station on this route is Hayes and Harlington, so let's skip forward once again. Now we're actually just about to leave Hayes and Harlington, and in a second or in a minute or so, we're going to pull into a station called West Drayton. Now this is actually where I'm from in real life, and it's weird. One thing I will say, if you lived in any of these areas on any of these routes, and that goes for other countries as well, like the USA or Europe, it's actually weird when you pull into a station like I'm about to do with West Drayton, get out and have a look, and you recognise things. You recognise the station as if you were there yourself, although obviously graphically it doesn't compare to real life. You recognise the platform, and you've stood in certain spots of that platform, and that can be a bit surreal the first time you do it. So we'll skip forward to West Drayton, and you can see that now. You can see that platform. So here we are, just about to pull into West Drayton. Now, when I stood on this platform in the past, obviously, this is right in the middle of the route, technically. So you see a lot of continuous services going in, the non-stopping services, should I say. So you'll get like the intercity trains that used to go through at high speed without stopping. But it's for once, I'm seeing a train stop here because I'm making it stop. So I'm able to get out now and have a look around a station that I am quite familiar with. Obviously, from the game's point of view, it looks a lot cleaner and a lot more polished than the real thing. But yeah, this is West Drayton. I know many of you watching this, or in fact probably all of you watching this, are not going to be the slightest bit interested. But from a nostalgic point of view, having not lived there for over a decade, or nearly a decade, should I say, it's really quite something. So we're going to now just skip forward towards the end of the route, and then we can obviously see how things play out when you finish the service. So then, here we are coming into the end of the route. The service that I chose terminates at Reading, so we are just coming into our last few checkpoints here. Obviously, when you start to get towards the end of a service, the speed limit obviously decreases. The signals change, so we've been green signals pretty much all the way through this journey, but now we are hitting an amber signal, and then after that it's going to be a red signal to signify the end of the service. So we're coming into the station now at a more sensible speed than when we did at Ealing Broadway, and that is the end of the service. So we visited a couple of stations on this route. We've not visited all of them in this video, but the good thing about this game, which some might appreciate, some might not, is if you want to sit down and play something that's not mind-numbing, that you don't really need to pay that much attention on, this game is perfect. And the reason it's perfect is because you can set a train off, and if you've got 7-8 miles to your destination, for example, you can get up, you can go and do things like go to the toilet, make a brew, or make some food, something like that, and come back to it, and you'll still be fine. Obviously, it's good to keep an eye on it in terms of signals, if you're doing scenarios and things like that. But as far as just regular service goes, you can leave it for a period of time. You can go and run a bath or something like that, and come back to it, and you will still be on track. Nothing will have changed. Some might appreciate that, some might not. But for those that do appreciate that, this could be a big thing for you, because you don't get that really in any other simulation game. Maybe the one we've got next, you might be able to do that on as well. It all depends on your play style. But Bus Simulator, you couldn't do that in Bus Simulator. You couldn't do that either in Farming. Well, you probably could do it in Farming Simulator actually if you hired a load of workers, but then there are still some aspects of Farming Simulator that you would have to do some work yourself. But no, this game is really good for that. And now we have finished the routes. You can see the final score there, the debriefing, how you fared on each platform stop, and yeah, so that was the Paddington to Reading route, cut down into a short segment of a video. And yeah, so as I say, this game is currently available at the time of recording this in the PlayStation Store if you wanted it for $24.99. There's a ton of expansion packs as well, and that includes maps, engines. I can't remember if there are carriages in this as well, but if there are, that's obviously one to look at. So yeah, thanks for watching.